Welcome to our live web event. This is being broadcast from the RSA 2020 show floor. I know that you saw some large sponsors that canceled, but this show is so crowded. It's noisy on the floor. There's a lot of people here, and obviously at a security conference, there's a lot of interest in ransomware. So we're going to talk about ransomware today, and we're going to walk you through a live attack in the ransomware space in a cloud service provider. So what we're going to walk through today is how ransomware attacks happen, what's happening with the evolution of ransomware attacks as they've migrated from individual attacks into static email accounts as into cloud attacks, and how the targets of ransomware are evolving. We're not going to focus on geopolitical issues, although that is part of ransomware. A fair number of our customers are focused primarily on the economic aspects of ransomware, where of course there's a quid pro quo, a payment, etc. It is a growing problem. We've had, according to Gartner, we've had a 7% growth in ransomware. And yes, people who are using cloud services such as G Suite and Office 365 have been attacked, are being attacked now. And it actually takes a different architectural strategy to deal with cloud attacks. So I'm going to turn the time over to David Asatrian. He's an expert in this area. He's going to walk us through a little bit of the background here, and then we're going to be looking at a captured live attack in the cloud environment. So David, over to you, and thank you very much for holding this event. I know RSA is busy for you, but thank you for taking time out to do this, David. Thanks.
No problem, Grover. Thank you for having me, actually. Yeah, I've been closely working with our ransomware research lab here at Spin Technology, and we analyze ransomware attacks on a daily, their development in the cloud, who they're targeting, and so forth. So just wanted to share some of that information with you all. And if we're ready, I can get started. All right. So there are a couple of ways in which ransomware can penetrate a user or an organization. It can be a simple phishing email that advertises the vacation of your life, or an attachment that you download to your local computer, which can instantaneously gain access to your data. Ransomware can also spread through networks, and it can infect multiple devices at once, especially those with no security protocols in place. That being said, supply chain attacks via MSPs and CSPs are very common as well, because it allows hackers to gain to target a large number of users at once, which is what they're going for. But now let's talk about how ransomware spreads to the cloud. An attack can start locally. You can get an email which asks you to click on a link, for example. The link then directs you to a web page containing JavaScript, which has the ability to download and run a malicious application on your computer. And once this is done, all local data is at risk. And all local or server data is encrypted through this application, and the attack can now spread across the network. And nowadays, people are using a lot of sync tools as well to organize both their local and cloud data. We want them all in one place. And by using Google Drive file stream or Microsoft Sync, for example, the attack can spread to those cloud services and encrypt them as well. So it goes from local to cloud through these sync applications. But the attack can also start directly from the cloud by, again, clicking on a link from a phishing email. A malicious SaaS application or even a Chrome extension can be installed to your environment, which immediately compromises your data. And once the necessary permissions are granted to them, the application can start the encryption process directly in the cloud, putting your Office and G Suite data at risk. Let's go next here. Management service providers have not been able to take a rest. We have some recent attacks here. Let me walk you through it. The Ryuk ransomware hit Corvell around July of last year, which is a healthcare services provider. TrialWorks, for example, a software for legal case management, was hit in October. And in December, there were also reports that Ragnar ransomware was specifically targeting MSPs because it had proved to be effective. And also they had found a way to obtain confidential information besides only encrypting the files. And I'm going to go into this more into the second because it's very important. And also around a month ago, the Albany International Airport was attacked through their network. And it's reported that they paid around $1 million in ransom, which is a very large number. But let's check out the attacks on CSPs. While the cloud is a much safer place to store data than locally, it is also susceptible to ransomware. CyrusOne, they were hit in December, a major data center provider, and their downtime affected all their customers, which they provide services to. In November, another attack occurred on smarterasp.net, where systems owned by the provider and customer databases were encrypted and they weren't working, they weren't functional. InSync was a target as well, and since they provide virtual desktops to their computers, most of them had their data encrypted along the process too. So the attacks are everywhere, both in the cloud and in local. And MSPs and CSPs are not able to cope with them. But now let's look at this video over here. We're gonna see how an attack happens. So we've captured many attacks, many live attacks over here in Spin technology, but what we have here is a recreation of a live attack of how a ransomware occurs. This specific one is for Outlook, the mail for Office 365. So let's get started and see what happens. All right, so we're gonna open Outlook here, and what we're looking at right now is the inbox of a conventional Outlook. All emails are easily accessible and manageable. As you can see, nothing is wrong with them yet. We're gonna move a bit forward here. We're gonna skip to right here. So you can see that this data has been safely protected and is backed up the same way that it looks in Outlook. But for the purposes of a ransomware attack recreation, we have turned off Spin's automated ransomware protection procedure just to let the attack take its full effect. And from what we're looking at right now, the hacker is now launching the ransomware attack, which will begin encrypting all the files in Outlook. We can see the process actually as it encrypts each file one by one quickly. So see over there how the instance discovery was successful. It's able to encrypt each email one by one. And this process happens in real time. So if you're looking at your inbox while this is happening, you would be able to see each email become encrypted. I'm gonna move a bit forward over here. All right. And the attack is now done, so we want to see what happened. We're going to check back on our Outlook. And as you guys can see, the subject of each email has been marked as infected. And the body of the email is affected as well. So both the body and the subject are marked infected. And the encryption of all these files occurred in a matter of minutes. And the user is either forced to pay the ransom or lose all their data. All right, let's move forward over here. So now having talked about how ransomware occurs and seeing it in action, it's worth to know more about how it has evolved over time. Let's talk about the first generation of ransomware attacks, where ransomware encrypts only the file body. So a binary file is run where the encryption Trojan is installed, and it begins encrypting files matching particular extensions. Security experts, though, were able to figure out quick decryption methods for these files, which didn't please the hackers because they weren't able to get the ransoms they need, and led them into the second generation of ransomware attacks, where the file body, the name, and its metadata were all encrypted. And I'd say this is the most common form of attacks now, especially in the cloud. But the new trend, so this is the new trend in the third generation of these ransomware attacks is hackers trying to steal sensitive and critical information of users before encrypting their files. So they do this by targeting remote monitoring and management tools. And what they do is they supervise and control IT systems. Also, they contain a lot of important information, sensitive information. So an example of this type of attack is the Ragnar Locker ransomware. And what this attack does is first, it stops all protection services, such as backups and antiviruses. So all services with strings, VSS, SQL, Veeam, backup, and more, they're targeted first and terminated because the goal is to leave the data exposed, therefore allowing them to delete all the backed up data and download all available critical company information. So after they have done all of this, then the attack would encrypt the data as it does regularly and request a ransom from the end users. But now it's also very interesting to see which industries these attacks are centered in. So who's being focused on. And the Vector report on ransomware collected information from the Europe and Middle East for known ransomware attacks. And the diagram that we see here provides a quick summary. So from what we can see, 35% of the attacks were in the finance and insurance industry, 18% in healthcare, 70% in energy. And from what you can understand, these are industries that contain highly sensitive data. And due to the nature of this, the ransoms are higher and more beneficial for the attackers. And in 2019, these were the most vulnerable industries. And the head of the security solution strategy from Google, Anton, he shared his thoughts and predictions on where ransomware would focus in 2020. And I thought it'd be very interesting to share. So I'm going to read this quote that you can see on your screen right now. Healthcare and local governments are two of the most vulnerable industries. Hospitals and municipalities aren't prepared for last year's threats, and they'll continue to get hit with tried and true attacks rather than more sophisticated threats. So the second sentence is what resonated here with me the most. There's not enough emphasis being placed on companies to make sure that they have the full local and on-cloud protection they need for such attacks. And because of this, hackers don't need to come up with new tactics, right? When the ones that they have already working. And it's extremely essential for organizations to get the protection they need before an attack occurs to prevent these from happening. All right, let's check out some interesting facts as well. So some companies out there might not be interested in paying the ransom at all, right? Since they have the data all backed up and they think they have no need to decrypt it. So what can happen in cases like this? We found the following post by REvil ransomware very interesting, where they threatened to sell the acquired data to competitors or even threatened to make the data public. And this can cause major issues for some companies, especially with GDPR in full effect. And REvil threatens that companies have two choices. They can either pay the ransom or pay 10 times more to the government for the files being made public. So let's see if they are actually just threats. Allied Universal, a security staffing firm, was also hit by Maze ransomware a while ago, and they didn't pay the ransom. So due to this, the attackers published around 700 megabytes worth of data to Bleeping Computer. They contacted Bleeping Computer and told them about the situation that Allied Universal isn't paying the ransom, and they actually followed up with another threat. They warned that if Allied Universal did not pay the ransom to TA2101, which is the hacker group, they would conduct a spam campaign using Allied's domain name and email certifications. And this is a highly serious issue, right? Not only did they publish the data to Bleeping Computer, but they also threatened to initiate spam campaigns under Allied Universal name. And not only is the data being encrypted, but it's also being stolen. And these hackers can ask for even higher ransoms to not publish the data publicly. And what's even more crazy to me is how this has totally turned into a business. Ransomware as a service. People can go to the dark web now and pay for an organization to be targeted by attacks. Grand Crab here posted how in just a year, the people working with them have earned over $2 billion and that they have personally earned themselves over $150 million. And since their efforts have been so successful, they were able to cash in all this money and retire. And while GandCrab is calling it a day, there are actually tons of new groups every day who are looking to meet the same success that GandCrab did and which is why it's a highly serious issue, and it's essential to have the full protection over your data. All right, from my end, that's about it. Grover, do you have any questions or how you want to move forward?
Thank you very much, David. So the question I'm getting here, and I actually have a couple of people asking this, is this actually happening in cloud services now, or is this a future threat? That is, are people who are using Office 365 and G Suite, is this actually happening to those companies, or is this only happening to companies that host their own email servers?
It's happening for everyone, for CSPs and MSPs, as we talked about, and they're happening today, right now. We've collected a number of live attacks here at SpinTech. The one that we showed today was actually a recreation of an actual one that happened recently. And these attacks can start locally and move to the cloud, or they can even start at the cloud level, G Suite or Office 365 directly. And there's also attacks going through networks and just coming in from everywhere, actually.
Okay,
So
the next question is how do they get access to the documents in another user? So you've got one user. Okay, so one user makes the mistake, they click on a phishing email, they messed up. But how does that propagate through the organization?
okay, got it. So again, these attacks can start locally or through the cloud. If they start locally, it's through syncing applications that they make their way to the cloud, the Google Drive file stream or Microsoft Sync. On the cloud level, so once they gain access to a user, whether it's through a phishing email or an application that is installed, it actually, how do I explain this? Access is given to them to manage and use your data. So whatever data is under your user is completely given to them, whether it's data that's shared with you, whether data is sent to you by someone else. These are all susceptible to being attacked by ransomware.
Okay, how does it hop across users though?
Sorry?
How does it change users? How does it, like, if Joe Smith accepts phishing emails, how does it infect Susan Davis?
Got it. Well, it goes from the top down, right? So it attacks for the administrators, for example, and because the administrators have permissions over the organization, that means the attackers have direct oversight over the data in the organization.
Okay, that makes sense. Okay. Next question. I've got a couple questions here on things like performance, load, etc. What if you're a G Suite or an Office 365 administrator and you turn on a service like you're talking, what is the performance impact that your end users will see? What does your network see and what does the end user see?
Got it. So it's dependent on the service that you're using. We actually here at Spin Technology also provide automated ransomware protection for G Suite and Office. And we're partnered with Google and Microsoft, and we work with data that's been sent to us by these cloud service providers. And by using this data in a very scalable manner, there is absolutely no network load or performance impact on the user end.
Okay, so what you're saying is all the load is in the cloud and they can't see it. There's no load that the end users or the organization sees.
Exactly.
Okay. How do you find the attack source? That's what somebody wants to know. You said, because during the demo in the live attack you were saying we turned off Spin 1. If you had it turned on, how would it have known where the attack was coming from?
Got it. So there's a couple of ways to detect when a ransomware attack is happening. We here at SpinTech, we use file behavior to detect when an anomaly has occurred. So the files are being encrypted somewhere, and this instigates abnormal file behavior. And when we use this data to find out that an attack is occurring, and when we do find out that an attack is happening, the first step is locating the source, right? Because if files are being encrypted, there must be an application or something connected to it that is causing the encryption of this data. And we use this encrypted files to find that source, and it allows us to take action. So what we do is we break the connection between the source and the files, which stops any new files from being infected.
How fast does that happen? How fast can we identify How fast can we block, and then how fast can we recover?
In a matter of minutes, actually. It's very quickly. So this is all real time. Then the data is being, we have an active 24/7 state scanner in place. So all changes are being taken into account, and Spin is always ready to take action when a attack is detected.
Okay. You said that this uses AI. What's the role of artificial intelligence in all this? How's AI working in this?
AI, well, we use file behavior to detect when an attack is happening, and abnormal file behavior is what denotes ransomware attacks. So we use AI to identify the normal file behavior for different types of G Suite and Office 365 files, and it helps us reduce the number of false positive cases when it comes to detection of a ransomware attack. So it definitely assists in only taking action when a ransomware attack is happening.
Okay, and the next question is, can this scale? The process you described looks pretty sophisticated. Can it scale to large populations? So, for example, I've got somebody here who's obviously at a university. They've got a lot of students. I got somebody else here who's at a very large enterprise. They say they have more than 100,000 employees. Does this model you're talking about scale to 100,000 employees? And does it scale to MSP populations?
Yes, definitely. So we currently have customers actually much larger than that, and it's because of our partnerships with Microsoft, Amazon, and Google, our platform is extremely scalable and can meet any organization's needs, regardless
So
of the user number.
people doing this now that are bigger than 100,000 employees.
Yes, our platform is scalable to all of them.
Okay, perfect. We do have some people who are going to see a live demo here at RSA. If you're not physically at RSA, one of the things we can do for you is if you send us a request, we can host a private demo for you, and we can be open mic so you can ask direct questions, things like that. That's probably the most common request we have, is for a large enterprise to hold a private demo. They get a room full of people, and then they get everybody in the room, and you can ask questions. This has been a really interesting event to hold. RSA, like I said, is really crowded. It's really noisy, and a lot of people on the floor here. David, that was really interesting. Thank you very much. This event has been recorded, and we're going to send a copy of the recording to everybody. David, any final words?
That's it from me, Grover.
Okay, well, thank you very much, and thanks everybody who spent their time and tuned in. We're going to get back to the trade show floor and hold a live demo for a group of people. And if you have any needs, send us an email. Thank you very much.